you see, new, culture, I'm sure even in your own place, when you visit somebody, in this case, when you have visited us, I don't want to give a speech. I don't want to give a speech to my guests. I want to have a conversation, heart-to-heart conversation. It would be strange for me to host visitors and then I take a piece of paper and start reading. That is out of the ordinary in terms of the cultural aspects of ourselves. So I want, we're talking about leadership, we're talking about Pan-Africanism, we're talking about the change that we should have had long ago and still want to have, and of course, questions always come up about why are we where we are today? Meaning Rwanda, meaning Nigeria, meaning Africa. And it's not a simple matter, because Africa, I don't think anyone, certainly I know for Nigeria and for ourselves, I know better about our country, of course. I don't think anyone is happy that Africa is where it is when you look at the rest of the world. We should be in a much better place than where we are. There's no question about it. And maybe we'll continue to have a conversation about that. And why is it common to all of us, meaning Africans, from north, south, east, west, central, wherever? And my problem has always been and continues to be, and we have conversations among ourselves, leaders of this continent, but still we don't see much progress. Why, with all the people, resources of all kinds, in actual fact, the fact that even across that rest of the world where we see things better than here, those contributing to the well-being of those places, in most cases, come from Africa. Doesn't matter whether you go to US, to Europe, to wherever, you'll find very good Africans at the top of the ladder, almost in every sector, making, therefore, these vital contributions to these countries or parts of the world. Then you come back to our continent. It's, some people are well off. In fact, incredibly well off. But those are few. The hundreds of millions are barely making a living. And so we talk about this every day, at least for the time I have been here. which is now running into 3 decades. The struggle is about that, the questions are about that, and we keep measuring, we find. So I'm trying to imagine that what my country goes through, what we all go through, trying to answer this question, is what people you lead in your states are going through. And that's what is going on in your minds, the leaders of those states, the governors. And that's what's going on in the minds of other leaders, whether it is the president, ministers, so on and so forth. There are these similarities. So how do we answer this question? We're talking about leadership because we're talking about leadership to deliver with people certain goods around development, security, stability, development, good governance, all kinds of things. We're also talking about Pan-Africanism because we are saying there is a common problem across the continent. So we really have the same questions to answer. And who else is going to do that? It's you and me. But it's also those people that we lead that must be part of it, if you will. So how do we break out of this cycle of our continent? And when I talk about breaking out of this cycle, I mean sometimes we have to start a little bit from the beginning, a little bit of history needs to be put into account. We are not where we are, that we are not happy about by accident. Or we are not staying there and not making the headways we want to make. Again, not by accident. It's because of certain things we can identify, talk about, you know, in your place, in my place, in some other African's place, and things you can feel and touch and that can actually be addressed. Now, the bigger question is, and that's what I mentioned earlier, because we have to be examining why are we where we are when the desire was to be completely in a much better place. And why does it happen when you have actually everything that we need to be where we want to be? That now comes around the same word that is repeated very often by everybody, everywhere, and so on and so forth. And that's leadership. But leadership alone is not a panacea. It has many things that interact with that. You have to be feeling hard-pressed about the problems of where you are coming from. You have therefore to be having a vision to say, but that's really where we want to be, and that's the way to get there. In fact, and in short, we need to be angry about, very angry about this nonsense that goes on forever around us or about us, that does not deliver the answer to this question, both of which we know and actually have the means to deal with. Let me use a quick example of my country, my history, and which I know is similar, but I'm just expanding it to other areas quickly to inform us of what the obstacles are and that shouldn't be there. When I was a kid, 4 years old, turbulence, political turbulence in this country was at its height. My family were exiled in Uganda. Became a refugee when I was 4 years old. I stayed in a refugee situation for 25 years. I stayed in a camp, refugee camp, for good 20 years. In a place where that man is born, the one who said, so who pretended to be a governor of one of from Uganda. That same district where he was born is where I grew up as a refugee. Now, but it's not about that story that I want to really to talk so much about. It's a different one. It's about what the country was going through around the time of independence. That's when many of those refugees happened. So it was called independence. And of course, it produced refugees. Later on, it gave us a genocide. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. But I'm trying to bring it up to try and expand it and show the problems afflicting the rest of Africa that we are able to resolve, or we should be, and we don't, and we keep running around asking ourselves questions about leadership, because I think we are talking about leadership, therefore, that should be able to address these issues. So those who came after the independence, of course, were also called leaders. Now, I'm trying to bring the connection between what was happening then and what is happening now, that people don't become sensitive to and address. And that is, so we became refugees. UNHCR, body of the UN that looks after refugees, or is around the camps, driving vehicles, giving us food. And by the way, they are still in business today, doing that, in different places, and with the different people who came after us. So that in itself became an industry. But it is not an industry of UNHCR. No. It's an industry of the other rest of the world, especially the developed world. But we always feel good about giving donations here, money there, to go and keep these innocent human beings of Africa being fed and surviving, and that's the way to address it. And then I don't even want to blame, the rest of the world. First, independence was from colonialism. So after colonialism, when we got independence, there are people who are being fed. And so I don't want to blame those people. I want to blame ourselves. I want to blame us. How do we keep in this state of affairs? So the industry developed, something else associated with it. Some, at that time, were, of course, being taken to Europe, to Belgium, to France, to UK, to Canada, wherever, to study and become, good Africans. But at the same time, they were really good Africans gaining these capacities, but groomed and to feel good about being associated with the same people. You're always, even currently, you say, oh, this is anti-West, this is, this is a Western. Even before, when one of us becomes a leader on our continent, he says, how is he with the West? Yeah, how is he? Is he our person? There is no question of saying, is he an African, a good African, who is changing, the lives of his people, our people. So, and then this leadership, or the leaders to be dealing with this, got caught up in this transition from the colonial times, the independence times, and somehow what is African got lost in between. And even when they are saying, is he a good leader? Or is he, yeah, because you are a good leader in as far as you can be associated with the West. Not with Africa. Now, if what I'm saying might even not be accurate, then why do we have everything on this continent? Have actually leaders were educated and informed and gone through all kinds of challenges. We have the resources, we have, and some are even characterized as being democratic and this or that. But it has not delivered this change I'm talking about. And we are there on our watch. And then there are troubles as of that time and that are similar as to those we have today. We have tribes fighting each other. We have people saying, even for the same country. But when it comes to embracing those outside who feed us, want to be seen to be good to us, then you understand what follows. they embrace them. So I'm sure some of the questions I don't need to answer now. They will come when we will bring them up, about the conflicts, about all kinds of things, about coups, coup d'etats, about this, and we will discuss that. But I just wanted to say, you cannot find a solution relating to leadership or Pan-Africanism and the transformation that must happen in our continent without starting a little bit from the historical background that I was talking about. Otherwise, you can easily forget where you are coming from and where we want to go. That's why I brought up that that bit of background, so that we can get started. Yeah, maybe I should stop here, but I wanted to really be, in a sense, provocative by raising this more to do with us than with others, much as we have to sort out these problems that are caused by others. So you are welcome, and you can have more than 1.5 hours. You can have 3. I'm here for that. Thank you.